I'm Russ Miller. I'm glad to be back in Paris. Haven't been here for a few years, but I love France. So. I started when I was 8 years old, and back then, us old guys took lessons first and learned how to read and learned how to hold the sticks correctly and proper strokes, and we would really just play a drum pad for years, learning how to read snare drum, rudimental things. So I had a drum pad, and it must have been about a year and a half or 2 years of playing, and then got a snare drum for like a year or so. And then kind of learned how to get the sounds out of that. And then finally, about 3 years into it or so, got, a bass drum, 2 toms, and a hi-hat. And that was it, and you learned on that and built it up. And I don't think I had a full drum kit for about at least 5 or 6 years, And I've always studied. I've always taken private lessons. I actually still take private lessons. I've never stopped my whole life. I've been studying with Peter Erskine the past 8 years, 9 years, on and off. And but I went to college, went to University of Miami for studio music and jazz performance, and played in all the bands in high school and all the ensembles and symphony and jazz band and big band and that was it. I've always been a professional drummer. I mean, I've had a few other jobs, but when I did those jobs, I was always a professional drummer who was valet parking. I was never a valet parker who wanted to be a professional drummer, I practice as much as I can with my schedule, usually an hour a day. And I take lessons with Peter Erskine and a few other guys when I get a chance, but with Peter mostly. And so I'm always working on it. I mean, I always looked at it like, my doctor is constantly learning and going to medical seminars and getting new medical books, and I'm no less serious about my job than he is his. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of different things, and I've been super blessed in my career to play a lot of great music with a lot of great people. But I always wanted to be a session drummer. That was like one of my goals. I loved Jeff Picaro and Carlos Vega and Steve Gadd and all these guys who had done, Vinny Colaiuta, all these guys who had done a lot of recordings. And there was a couple things that really struck me about recording. I love the process. I love getting the sounds and experimenting with all that, and really getting into what's required for songs to make them really become special. But the other thing that struck me was that, the history of music is in the recording of it. The history is not in live performances, because, unless they were recorded, then the only people that saw them were the people in that room, and it's gone. So to me, the history of what we do is in the recording of it. So I thought that was like a key component, like to leave a legacy or a lineage of what you had to say about playing. It had to be recorded, and that's a different skill set. It's not just about understanding what the mics do, or there's a whole different kind of playing on a recording, because a lot of things that you do live, they don't translate through the tape and through the mic, because there's a visual element to playing live, So bringing your hand up here and doing that, it means nothing on a recording, So there's a lot of things that you just have to understand, like what is actually translating through the mic and coming across on the recording, and what things don't need to be there because it's not live.